Hey there, friends on YouTube. My name is Jason, sometimes known as the JTL. This is Painfully Honest Tech, and today we're back again doing something that I haven't done for a while. We're going to do a little bit of a discussion about the current situation that's enveloping Linus Sebastian and Linus Tech Tips. It was 5 years ago when I last did a Can You Trust on Linus Tech Tips, and in light of the current news surrounding Linus and his much larger than it was at the time media group, and in the last week or so, he's been engulfed in controversy, seemingly after controversy, starting at the beginning of this week when Gamers Nexus, a relatively large channel in the PC space that's a contemporary of Linus's, released a video pointing out what they felt was a pattern of increased errors in reporting and testing coming from Linus's videos. In addition, at a recent event, Linus auctioned off a prototype cooling system from a startup company who very much wanted that thing back. It was supposedly their best prototype to date, and they wanted to get it back. They had let Linus borrow it for a while. And now I can't speak to the behind closed doors machinations between those two entities. At this point, Linus has said it was a misunderstanding and they are working together to correct the situation, whatever that might turn out to be. What has happened since the Gamers Nexus video was released has been perhaps even more explosive. Linus's initial response on the Linus Tech Tips forums was inadequate in some ways, but he did take a step toward owning some of the criticism and promising change. What happened next occurred overnight as Tuesday became Wednesday. At 2 a.m., a former Linus Media Group employee published a long thread of tweets that detailed her experiences working for the company. She detailed a litany of problems from mismanagement of her and her position to out-and-out harassment and mistreatment. It's not my place to comment on those allegations. I wasn't there when the things were happening. If any of them are true, it is a really bad situation that I hope gets rectified and discussed among the parties that are involved. Linus has responded to those tweets saying, in part, I was in a state of shock reading through these allegations, plain and simple. They aren't consistent with my recollections. They aren't consistent with our company values. He went on to say, our HR team will be conducting a more thorough assessment of the allegations, and when we are ready, we will release a more complete statement. Then yesterday at 7 a.m., Linus Tech Tips released their own video featuring their newly ensconced CEO, Terrence Tong, as well as other members of the Linus Media Group team, including the news that they were ceasing production of all videos as they seek to fix the systemic issues that have led to the increase in errors in their work. This is an extreme and hopefully positive move for the company. All of this is shocking, of course, and things could get a lot worse before they get better, but I, for one, hope they get better, and let me explain why. As I went back and watched the Can You Trust video, linked over down in the description below or whatever, as I watched that video from 5 years ago, I found myself saying that Linus seemed burned out and sometimes jaded in his delivery. He had also developed a penchant for the dramatic around that time. Linus's sense of humor has always been acerbic, and that's part of his shtick. It's part of his charm. But even back then, when they basically violated the warranty of the iMac Pro they brought in-house and broke the screen when they tried to take it off to look at what was going on inside, Apple refused to fix it, and Linus definitely went a little bit overboard, got a little bit histrionic in the video he made about that whole debacle, and it sort of strained credulity at his level of outrage. And that's the thing. Even though Linus Tech Tips has always had a healthy amount of educational content around tech, in recent years, the scope of the channel, or the group of channels that they have, has shifted to be more focused on entertainment and not strictly, down and dirty, hands in the computer tech. Linus has a big personality, and it's often on display. Perusing the thumbnails of recent videos on the Linus Tech Tips channel, there's very little straight-up reviews or how-to content. The thumbnails are bold, and the titles are designed to get the click, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's how YouTube works, and Linus and his employees have become very good at playing the YouTube game. That's how you get to 15 million subscribers. But at what cost? With the larger allegations in play here, it would be easy to gloss over the fact that Linus and his team have been creating content at a feverish pace, one that you could argue is unnecessary given their status in the tech YouTube stratosphere. Across their channels, they're putting out dozens of pieces every week. And the strain that it puts on them is showing itself in many ways across many aspects of what they do. The allegations and information that we got from his former employee being some of the more damning and concerning aspects of that overwork. Many of his employees have stated in other places that the pace they are asked to keep is not easy and for some, not healthy. And being a creator myself, doing this thing now for over 10 years, I know how insidious YouTube can be at seemingly demanding we feed the beast every day. And now it seems like multiple kinds of content every day. If we want to remain relevant, we have to keep grinding. I don't know Linus personally, so I can't speak with firsthand knowledge of his intentions, but what has become very clear over the course of this week is something has to give at Linus Media Group, and at this point, that something could be everything. That would be an extreme outcome, but this has already escalated well beyond what I could have imagined happening in 3 days. In the rush of content that surrounded this situation, the folks that are damning everything that Linus has ever done, there has to be some kind of middle ground where we discuss what this really is and how this really impacts the YouTube community as a whole. And in this crush of content, it has come to light that at one point recently, Linus had been offered $100 million to sell his channels and his media group and ride off into the sunset. That's the kind of thing that no one who started making YouTube videos 10 or 15 years ago could have ever imagined coming to pass. Linus and his team passed on that offer, and they recently brought on Terrence Tong as the CEO, with the intent being Linus could go back to doing what he loved to do, what he was really good at in the first place, making videos. So the chairs at the table in the Linus Media Group were already in motion, moving around and changing before this whole shitstorm took hold. Whether it was because they internally recognized changes needed to be made for some of the reasons that are now coming to light, I can't say. And now, as they shut down production to work on the issues in a more focused manner, a part of me hopes that it's the right remedy. I mean, I don't wish anyone ill will. I do hope people take accountability for anything they might have done that's harmed other people, etc., etc. But there's also a part of me that hopes Linus takes this as a wake-up call. I can't see how he couldn't, not just to be better at his job and to fix his company, but to maybe reprioritize his working life in the context of his larger life. More than once in the years since I made my first Can You Trust a video, Linus has come on and said in many different ways that he was ready to step away from doing this, and maybe that's the right solution. He's been wildly successful building a media group that goes across multiple YouTube channels and multiple other ventures with over 100 employees. Linus is clearly a very driven person, but now he's in the enviable position perhaps to focus on his family, his life. I know what it's like to be driven, to continue to have success, to continue to do the thing that you love and to make it bigger. And I know from my own experience that sometimes being driven is great until you drive yourself so far into the ground that the wheels fall off. In Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, there's a quote: "You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain." It's also in the Dark Knight movie, but that's where it came from first off. Is Linus Sebastian a villain? No. No, I really don't think so. He's ambitious, he's driven. When you are starting out your business in a bedroom and then it grows to be something that a lot of people rely on for their daily bread, it's got to be challenging to come up with that stuff. And if any of the allegations of harassment or anything like that turn out to be true, then somebody has to stand to account for that. And when it comes to mistakes being made in videos and relationships with partners being strained, that has to be rectified as well. Linus has built a very large company around himself from very small beginnings. Can you trust Linus Sebastian and his company that he's built around himself? That ultimately remains to be seen. No one is perfect. No company maintains the standards it's set for itself at all times. Companies are made up of people, and people are imperfect. It's clear Linus Media Group has a lot of soul searching to do, as does Linus himself. I wouldn't blame him for taking an offer to sell the company and walking away, but I don't think that's what he's going to do, because I think that he loves what he does. Coming from that place, I think he's going to do everything that he can to make it better. Will it work? I can't say. If it does work and he succeeds in bringing his company out of this situation, great. And if he and the rest of the people around him at his company fail to rectify the situation in all its various facets, that will likely spell the end for Linus Media Group. Linus will ultimately be the one who takes the credit or the blame no matter what happens, because heavy is the head that wears the crown. A lot of what we've heard this week is not good. And so a lot of work needs to be done in order to make those things right. But until then, I think we wait, I think we watch, I think we hold people accountable, and then we move on from there. We have to make sure that the steps they are taking now turn out to be the steps that needed to be taken, that things that were wrong are made right. Thank you for watching. Until the next time, I am out.